know, most businesses have no real onboarding, and it terrifies me. They have this person that's already too busy showing a new hire what they can remember in the 20 minutes before they have to get back to their actual job. 20 minutes if they're lucky. Now, the result is a new team member who is half trained at best, underconfident, and asking questions for the first 3, 6, 12 months instead of actually contributing. And that's not a good time for anybody, right? The team ends up carrying the load while they get up to speed. The founder ends up fielding questions that the team cannot answer. Everyone gets slowed down and everyone is more frustrated, least of which is that new hire that you've set up to fail. And the founder knows this is a problem, but an onboarding program and onboarding system sounds like a project that requires weeks and weeks of their time that they do not have already. So the next hire gets that same half-baked handover and the one after that. And meanwhile, the business keeps growing, which means more hires, which means the problem gets more expensive every single time. And these people either end up leaving. So you've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on this person that just leaves anyway, or they're contributing at less than their potential because we haven't set them up to win. Now, I work with founders to build plug and play onboarding systems from the knowledge they already have without requiring weeks of documentation work or a dedicated HR team. Now, most founders have a functional onboarding map within the first week that they work with us. It's not a HR manual. It's a practical system that gets new hires productive by the end of week 1. Now, if that sounds like the dream, stay with me because I'm going to show you how this works. Let me get my whiteboard crack-a-lackin' and let's unpack the beauty of this system. So, you're moving fast. You need to onboard new team members. You need them to keep pace with yourself and you need them to get started, and you need them to get started quickly. So what do? How do we get them there as quickly as possible? That is the $1,000,000 question. We start at the beginning, like everything, right? So, onboarding. One of my favorite clients, Sarah, is an absolute rock star. And you know, I say that about my clients because we only work with rock stars. So she was struggling with new hire ramp up time. So her onboarding was exactly as I described it earlier, hot mess. She came to me and every new hire was a disruption. So to the point where she was working super late to not have to hire new people, and she's trying to get her existing team to work later, and they're like, no, we're already like over capacity as it is. And it's not it wasn't a people issue, right? There was just no system set up to receive these new humans. And day 1 is a tour of the virtual office, an invite to Slack. Day 2 was shadowing whoever had the least to do, which is really anyone. And by week 2, new hire is finding their own way around and making horrendous mistakes, not their fault, that the last 3 people have made before them. And I'm laughing, but it's because it's so horrific, right? It shouldn't be this way and it doesn't need to be this way. So let's talk about what a real onboarding system needs to cover and how you can do this really simply. So, simple timeline. Let's get a real pen here. Timeline. Right. We got week 1. And none of you are looking at stuff like this, right? Where do I need them to be by week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, right? Think about where you need them to be. This is the magic, okay? So week 1, well, sorry, I should say, an awesome onboarding system works in stages. You got to stage it. You can't cross this around. It needs to be really intentionally put together in stages. So week 1 is orientation So you've all heard of O week, right? So orientation and culture. Orientation and culture. This is who we are, how we work, and what the non-negotiables are. Okay, stay with me. Week 2, process. Okay, process. This is the specific workflows for this role. Now, week 3, we call supervised execution. Supervised execution. So at this point, this is where they do the work and someone checks it, and then we can move them into independent work. We'll get to that. Week 4 is independent. Let me just move my toolbar out of the way. So this is independent execution. Now, for a lot of you who are not getting people to this point, by month 6, this is a much better way to approach your onboarding, right? So orientation and culture in week 1. Now, a lot of you, when I'm working with our fabulous clients, they panic at this point because they're like, why aren't they doing any work? Not yet. We're orienting them. We're showing them how the business works. This is who we are, how we do things, why we do things that way. They're going to hang out with other team members. We're really going to get them indoctrined into our culture. They're going to become part of the team. Then they're going to understand their processes, the workflows that are crucial to their role. And because you have an absolutely robust standard operating system, a playbook, an OS for your business, they're going to crush this part. Then supervised execution. You will have a system in place that they can follow so that they can get their work checked at regular intervals that doesn't inconvenience your day. And then they move on to independent execution with support if they need it, right? That's all well and good. But how do we get to this point, right? So working with us, we do first things first. We do what's called an onboarding gap audit, right? So this is great at a high level, but this is where we really dive in. And for the first 30 days, we map out what currently happens in the first 30 days for a new hire in your business, formally and informally. So we work with you, we work with your team, we identify the gaps, what is not being taught, what is being taught, yet inconsistently, and then what's sitting in someone's head instead of a system. And it's usually more than you think it is. So last time we ran an audit, this particular audit, the onboarding gap audit with a client, what they realized was they were not too bad at this part. Hold up. They weren't too bad at this part. Processes, they were pretty good at teaching. It was moving from the teaching of the process to set them up for success independently, because they weren't doing this very well because they were too busy. And they also weren't great at this. So this client, amazing company, I'd be stoked to work there because of what they stood for and what they do, but they weren't communicating that in a way that was getting people excited to be there. Okay. Now, the second step is to build an onboarding map. So using knowledge that's already in the business, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We built a staged 30-day onboarding structure for each role in the organization. It's not a manual. This is a map, to be very clear. It's a map. Okay. Now, each week has a clear focus, like these bad boys here that we already spoke about, a set of milestones and check-in points so that the founder knows the hire is on track without babysitting required, which is super important. Now, when we built this map for our client, the next hire that they made actually ramped up in those 4 weeks. Not 6 months later did they bail out because they're like, I still don't know what my job is. I still don't know who we are or why we're doing what we're doing. Why is so important to people? That's a whole other conversation. When people understand the why of what they're doing on a daily basis, really, really powerful. So for her, and in that process, it was really important. It was really important to her that we got that right, because she's saving thousands of dollars in not having to rehire someone. She's got someone who's ready to go in 4 weeks instead of not being able to hit the ground running in 6 months. And I say 4 weeks, like new hires are still going to have questions at this point, but they're so much further along. They're so much further along because we've been intentional about the onboarding. Now, once we've built it once, we get to convert to a plug and play model. So once it's templated, we can replicate it for every new hire that is going into that role going forward. New hire comes in, they follow the map. The team does not have to stop what they're doing to hold someone's hand for 3 months, and they won't hold someone's hand because they don't have time to do that. And the founder doesn't field the same questions repeatedly over and over again. And the new hire is productive by week 1. Now, by the time we finished with this client, they'd gone from, she didn't want to hire people. She's like, I just want to do all the work myself. I'm not going to scale my business because new hires don't work for me. That was her hallucination. New hires do not work for me. 2, trusting the system, to having a system, trusting the system, and knowing by week 4, I've got someone that can do 80% of what I can do. And that is a great place to be in, because the system is doing the onboarding, not the founder, not the general manager, not the ops lead. So, team, if you want to come on this journey with me, let's clear this up for you. Join me on an onboarding gap call this week. So founders who book this week will walk away with a clear picture of where their current onboarding is breaking, so where the gaps are, a prioritized list of what to build first. Let's grab those opportunities, build them first, and create a framework for a 30-day onboarding map that does not require you to be in the room, whether we end up working together or not. So, team, this is a working diagnostic. Come along, and you're going to leave with a plan that